You know something? This anime is garbage. Like, this whole thing is garbage. The characters are, like, two-dimensional. The main character, the protagonist, is, like, puts Kirito to shame in terms of being overpowered. There's plot holes. There's god-awful fan service, like, every 5 seconds. Like, this whole thing, like, the music, like, the animation, the CG is garbage. Like, this whole thing, I hate the fact that I had to watch this for this podcast. Anyway, season 2 is pretty good too, actually, come to think of it. Like... that gives away my review of this show anyway. Anyway, already, just spoilers.
So, to recap... You started watching this. You watched all of season 1 in one day.
Yes.
Wait, we
haven't even done the intro. Yes.
Hi. We're Anime Roulette.
You can do the intro this time if you want.
All right, I'll do the intro. Hi, and welcome to Anime Roulette, where two wayward individuals throw themselves into the depths of what anime can truly be to evaluate how bad things can get. Or how good. Hypothetically, how good. But we really haven't.
We've had that twice.
That direction yet. We've only had that twice. So
like
we're not really winning here.
Yeah, like we had a false start on this podcast, right? Like we tried doing this once before, and it didn't take off, and it was a bit hard with our schedules. And then we've actually finally got this podcast running, and again, and across all those like 10 rolls we've done, we've had 2.5, because Blood Blockade Battlefront, which is our experimental episode, like 2.5 good ones. The rest have been shocking. And this one is bad too, and I loved every fucking second of I know that's like spoilers for the review, but like I can't, like I watched the whole thing in one day.
Never let it be said that we don't put fucking work in for this. This isn't just two mates making excuses so we can watch like an anime regularly, like, and keep ourselves like watching new stuff.
That is
and
part
evaluating new stuff. I mean, there's part of it. That is pretty much the impetus to this. But the work we put in here. So Pac watched all of season 1 and up to date on season 2 in the space of a day.
Yep.
I have read all of volume 1, all of the manga up to date, and all of season 1, just so we can give you the best rounded review of this fucking shit show.
It's garbage. Like, you know what? Let's just jump right into it. The anime we rolled...
What Nation?
What Nation?
My god. Like, you can't compete with a series that, like, has localization like this. What
like,
the
yeah,
hell?
like, what intonation? Like, they actually say it, but, like, we should actually get to the point. We haven't mentioned the anime yet. This week, we watched Arifureta, The Journey from the Weakest to the World's Strongest.
Or is it Arifureta? I still don't know.
I don't know.
Because they don't ever say it not that much in the show. So I'm going to go with Arifureta because it sounds kind of alright.
No, I'm going to go with, like, my amateurish Spanish impression. Arifureta. Arifureta.
Okay, Arifureta. So prior to this, I read the manga and watched the first 2. I watched the first 2 episodes, was like, wow, this fucking sucks. and then somebody's in the comments on, like, wherever I was streaming it was like, read the manga. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And I read the manga and I was like, why is the art so good?
Why does the manga slap?
And then I kept reading and I was like, yes, here's the Isekai, like, you know, the basics of Isekai power fantasies that we all know and hate.
Yeah.
And I kept reading.
I know! It's so annoying!
Because this show is what this niche should be, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It revels in the fact that it's stupid. At no point does it, like, okay, it does occasionally think it's a little high-minded, but for the most part, it understands that it is a trashy fantasy, like, harem. There is, like, no pretensions about that, you know? Like, like Hajime is this like weird edgelord who is not only is he fun to follow because he is not like if you've read or watched Shield Hero, Naofi, is it Naofi?
Naofumi.
Naofumi, yeah. Naofumi
fucking hate that
is
show.
a fucking wanker.
I hate that show.
And like, I mean, like within the context of the narrative, it makes sense that he's going to be like pissy all the time. But as things improve, he continues to be a fucking like wet fucking sack of shit.
I hate Shield Hero. We hate Shield Hero on this podcast. Like we flat out do.
And like here, Naofumi, like not Naofumi, fucking Hajime is inclined to edgy tendencies, especially when he starts talking about killing all his enemies. However, and this makes sense in the context of this narrative, he is constantly bolstered by the people around him into embracing his better tendencies. When he encounters people like Yue for the first time, he finds himself, you know, he is like in full edgelord mode at this point, and he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna help her because that's the right thing to do. And that's the kind of character he is, and it's constantly this like, he looks like a fucking shoony fuckhead, but like
but this is the thing, right? He is an otaku loner. He has a gun. He's an otaku loner who's been isolated from the rest of his class. Like, he is like the archetype for all of the people watching the show. He's an otaku loner, isolated from the rest of his class, not very popular, doesn't have a lot of mates. One of his classmates tries to kill him, which is the impetus of this whole story. So think about it. You're the unpopular kid who only gets average grades. You're an otaku with a hobby. Like, no one likes you.
And then you get isekai'd into a bad anime with bad animation.
Yeah, you get isekai'd and your life is still shit. You're still the useless guy. You get given the most useless class, or it seems anyway. It appears to be the most useless class. It's like, you know, your classmates still hate you, and one of the girls who's taken a soft spot for you causes a jealous guy to try and literally kill you. Your comrades, quotation marks, leave you for dead, right? And then you're like, oh, but he's not going to be an edgy fuck. Like, no! Of course he's going to be a quasi, school restructurer. I don't think I can say the actual thing I was going to say because Daddy YouTube might kill us. But but you know what I mean? Of course he's going to be an edgelord who reminds you of certain teenagers from 1991. You know what I mean? Of course he's going to be that guy. He's an edgelord with a long trench coat, and because he's an artificer, right? He's what do they call it? Like
synergist.
Synergist, right? Like Edward Alric can eat a dick. My God, like straight up. He uses his alchemy, for lack of a better. It's straight up lifted from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. It like straight up lifted, like fair, the way he does it.
At this point, like that whole genre of like if you read enough isekai manga, you're going to encounter like the alchemy circles.
Yeah.
And in the novel, this was something I really noticed, is that they make a big fucking deal about alchemy, like the magic circles, only for them to become completely irrelevant by the time that Yue shows up, because Yue doesn't need circles to cast them. Hajime doesn't use magic. He uses abilities. And he doesn't need to. Yeah, there's this whole big deal about how Hajime has to draw really big magic circles in order to use magic, but he doesn't use magic, so it's not a really big deal, and it becomes completely irrelevant very quickly on. And it's really noticeable, especially in the anime, whenever they encounter like the other group. Of his classmates. But we're doing this all wrong. So
because we're just talking. But yeah, so that is basically the plot. A class of kids get isekai'd, and they're all told because they got isekai'd, they are actually the chosen heroes to save the kingdom, as all isekai plots are. But the big twist for this one is they get sent down into the great Orcus labyrinth, the great dungeon, to train up and get ready to fight the Demon Kings or whatever, who are an actual faction, and they actually have a lot of detail, which surprised me. But they're getting ready to train up and fight the Demon King, and Artificer, guy, is working together with them, but his only ability is he can manipulate matter and stuff that he's touching, like stone and rocks and other articles. So basically, he can manipulate matter if he's touching it, like an alchemist from Full Metal Alchemist.
And he has to be in close proximity. This
has
is
to be
the
in close
early.
proximity.
Obviously, this is in early stages,
right?
Like in the early stages, he has to be close. He can only do so much.
Yeah, right. So he has to do all of this, and during this big fight, they accidentally set off a trap, and they're in a huge
teleported down to the 75th floor.
Yep.
65th?
Yeah, like 65th. They get down to the bottom of the labyrinth where there's high-level monsters, and most of the class only just barely makes it out with their lives. And they only make it because he gets himself into a defensive position and builds a rock wall. But while they're covering his escape, one of his fellow classmates who has a crush on the girl who he's got a good relationship with tries to kill him, and so he falls down into the bottom of the labyrinth. There, he fights for survival, and eventually, in order to survive, he uses his transmutation abilities to get away from an ogre thing that's eaten his arm, and gets away and finds a healing orb which restores his mana and cures all wounds, except regrowing his limb, of course. And he uses that as a base of operations while having his big growth moment saying, hey, I'm going to get revenge on my enemies, I'm going to find a way home, I'm going to survive. And he uses his abilities and this mana regenerating stone to trap monsters and eat them. But normally the monster's poison would kill him, but because he's got the healing stone, he can survive it. And then he morphs into this sort of half monster, half human hybrid, gets ultra buff, really good looking really quickly, and inherits the monster's power. And then he discovers he can level up like 10 levels at a time just by eating monsters. So he goes on a massive crusade to power level his way through the dungeon, and becomes quite literally monstrously OP.
Yes, it is at this point that he becomes what is referred to in the lore as a human-monster hybrid, because he is literally part monster at this point because he keeps eating them, which I would remind people that you do not become half of something when you eat it, otherwise I would be half chicken.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's a really nasty thought. I don't want to be half chicken, man.
Yeah, no, I don't want to be half chicken either, because I would be half chicken too, but like, actually...
Or I'd be like half chicken, half beef. I don't want to be half fucking cow.
Half cow, half chicken. Could you imagine? But anyway, he becomes
guns.
He becomes a human monster hybrid and gets super jacked, gets white hair and red eyes like an absolute baller, and he turns really, really, for lack of a better word, really, really hot. I'm a straight man, but he's really, really hot. Anyway.
Yeah, he definitely, and this is something that I feel like, okay, this is where I'm gonna come smashing in. So throughout today's episode, I'm gonna have to wrestle with the fact that I have 3 separate versions of this series rattling around in my skull right now. So I'm gonna try and give you guys the best sort of like melding of these 3 as we can do, because that's what I'm here for, apparently. Okay, so it's really important to mention here the differences between the 3 adaptions. So the anime is the most brisk paced of the 3. It blasts through content so quickly. Like, Hajime falls down, he immediately gets attacked by the rabbit, then the rabbit gets eaten by the bear, then his arm gets eaten by the bear, and blah, 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 right?
Yep.
In the manga, it's a little bit slower, right? It's a little bit drawn out, there's a little bit more tension with, like, making the bunny creepier and stuff. But it's like still close to the pace of the anime. Then you have the fucking light novel where it turns into a goddamn SAS manual with Hajime trying to figure out how he's going to like survive and like planning out what he's going to do to survive in the abyss. Also, the other 2 don't really explain how he survived falling all the way to the bottom.
No, it doesn't. He just sort of does.
So I think that was probably the right decision to make, because the explanation in the light novel made me want to punch his hand. Basically, on the way down, he hits a waterfall and it breaks his fall.
That's not how that works.
And so, yeah, and he hits his head, gets knocked out, washes up on a river. He's like freezing cold and he's like, oh God, I got to run away before I get hypothermia, blah, 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 blah. And then we're back to where we started. Yeah, no, the manga did explain it. He did say I hit a waterfall then, yeah, because he can't remember because he hit his head. It's a bit more fleshed out. And this is where I'm going to quickly talk about the writing style of the light novel, where they basically I don't approve of this, and I think it really doesn't work for this particular novel, but like there's occasional moments of narrator omnipotence, despite the fact that we're mostly like latched into Hajime's perspective, where it'll explain things to us or do comparisons or like explain monsters or magic, because Hajime should have theoretically no way of understanding, especially during the Abyss arc. He's alone underground. There's no way for him to know. For example, one of the examples that I noted was that he's compared to having the strongest synergy in the kingdom on the same level as the top blacksmith, but there's no way for him to know that. So I find it to be like an annoying comparison at that point.
Yeah.
And that's something that's literally limited to the light novel here. And the light novel, despite all the praise I see it receiving, is not a good written book. It's
garbage.
It is still fundamentally flawed in the same ways that the other adaptation. Oh, okay. The anime is the worst of the lot. It should be emphasized. The animation, the like character color, even the coloring of it is like weird, right? Like we watch a lot of anime, and the coloration in this is super weird.
Also, the animation is jank. Like the 2D animation is
Possible.
Actually, you know what? I actually say it's good. Like, the character animations are fun.
It has moments, but then there's also moments where I was like, and there's also moments where like they're like clearly competent at doing like some really nice little 2D segments, like that bit with the like thousands of monsters where like Yue does like, I think it was called the lightning worm or something, and it's all done in 2D. And I was like, why weren't you doing this for the other magic attacks that look stupid?
Money. But like that's
I know.
That's the thing though. The thing is about the animation in this show. What it is the 2D animation is basically like, in terms of like the character 2D animation, it's kind of like people are gonna like get mad at me, but I'm gonna say it this way anyway. It very much reminds me of like Konosuba's like average character animation, you know what I mean? Like where it's just like that when they're just hanging out. Like the deeper character moments, of course, this show doesn't even get close to Konosuba's level of quality when they get deep with it. But on the whole, this show's animation when it's doing 2D is like up there with like Konosuba's day-to-day activity kind of look. It's very good in lots of places. In fact, the rabbit people and the rabbit character, the rabbit girl, Shay, like, she is fantastically done, and her animated sequences are very, very good, and I like them a lot, and she's a great character, and the other character designs are excellent, especially Best Girl, who we actually agree on this time. A shocker, I know. But like,
although I do, it's a fierce battle for, like, I mean, this show, it's like, especially because in like ways that other isekai wouldn't do, this show is way more committed to its power fantasy thing. Yeah, because like okay, how many of us have like watched like something like Danmachi, like, you know, Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in the Dungeon, which by the way gets a shout out in the light novel. Yeah, very funny joke with Shizuku saying to Kaori, "Is it wrong to pick up men in the dungeon?" But like, the thing that like drove me nuts is that it commits to the power fantasy, and that's something you wouldn't see in something like that, like in Danmachi. Like in Danmachi, there's multiple girls who are interested in Belle, blah, 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 and they just sort of orbit around him. And this happens in all of these kinds of isekai and isekai adjacent things like Sword Art Online.
That's what I'm saying.
Girls, they like the main character, but they either don't make a move, or one of them makes a move, but the other girls stick around, and it's kind of weird.
Yeah, look, the progenitor.
I am atting you, Sword Art Online.
Like, the progenitor, SAO, like, has... I am a renowned amongst my friend group, and Ivy is the lone holdout of people who genuinely dislike SAO.
I have given Reki Kawahara too many fucking opportunities. I've given him too many chances, man. And every time I'm like, this is the last time.
I love the fact that he's finally
pull me back in.
He's finally done it with Progressive. He's finally won him over slowly. He's on thin ice, but he's slowly doing it.
So thin. The novel I haven't watched the movie yet, but
The movie's good.
It's okay. The
movie's
novel
good.
is okay. It gets a pass.
But this
from
is
me in
the
a way
thing.
that his other work would. But that's not what we're
That's
talking
not what
about.
we're talking about. We're talking about this.
The committing to the power fantasy.
And like, this is the thing. Kirito is the metric by which we've measured OP protagonists, because Kirito is Jesus-kun online for a reason. He can just somehow pull it out of his ass. Look, I don't care who you are. If you've ever played an MMO, you know that one-manning a fucking raid boss is bullshit.
Absolutely.
But this anime, because of the way they've set it up and the way they've committed to it and the way they know what this is, homie uses his like alchemy powers to make a gun and just fucking gats the bitch. He gats
Also,
the raid boss.
Just a quick mention. The light novel actually brings this up because this was really weird. In the manga, he drops the wolves into a trap pit.
Yeah, he does.
And he does that in the anime too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when he does that, in the novel, he can't do that because he explains that his synergy powers can't do it sharp enough to thrust into monsters because that would class as earth manipulation, not synergist. And so he literally molds the walls around the wolves and traps them with their heads out. And then he fucking hand drills them to death. He makes a hand drill and fucking grinds it into their fucking... Oh, it's so fucked. I was like, what the fuck? This is even more fucked up than the novel.
Ooh, it's
I mean, the manga. I was like, holy shit, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's brutal. But you see, that's the thing. This show commits to its setting. Like, in the start, in the first couple episodes, he's like scrambling, he's desperate, and then as he builds up, he's like, okay, now I've gotten to this point and I've survived and I've become this monster demon dude. Now I'm going to use my extra power and I'm going to fucking make a gun. Like, everyone else is using mages and swords, like, you know, because they're in a fantasy world and that's what they do. But because his power is like mineral and like resource manipulation, and because he's eaten the monster, he has the abilities of the monsters, and he's also gotten the level and stat boosts from eating the monsters. He can now use his powers to make shit. So of course, he makes guns, he makes pistols, he makes a Barrett 50 cal, right? And he uses like the resources he has. He uses the different rocks and the different stuff to make a variant of gunpowder and to make casings. And he's making like like, what the thing is this guy is like, it's taken the power fantasy isekai and fully committed to it while also not doing what SAO does, staring at it, and just because SAO, as we all know, even though in my opinion it gets good in season 2 and with Alicization, SAO, to get its point across, does a lot of hand waving. This trashy as fuck wish fulfillment isekai does the groundwork, even in the background bits, to explain how and why he's getting all the shit and doing what he's doing. Because if you have the abilities if you have supercharged alchemist abilities, and you can make complex objects with, like, the minerals you have at hand, fuck using magic. Of course I'm gonna make a gun. Of course I'm gonna make a Barrett 50 cal. And later on, when he gets more advanced magic and clears the first dungeon and everything, he makes fucking Humvees. He makes a submarine. Because why wouldn't you? Like, if you have the ability, like, fuck this magic broom and mage and, I cast Fireball. No, I cast 50 BMG. Fuck you. Fuck your dungeon. Fuck your raid boss. I'm putting a 50 cal through its brain.
I cast anti-material.
I cast 50 cal. Get our mate 1Sum41 on here.
Okay,
I cast 50 cal.
The thing that, like, you need to understand about this is this is probably going to be one of our longest episodes because we have so much to talk about, and we've got so much. We're going to be like up to, like, we are recording late compared to usual, so we are going to be cranking the midnight oil to get this out to you. But the thing with this is that it's not like it's take the romance. Okay, so I'm going to use the romance as a case study here. The romance here is thin. Girls meet Hajime, they fall in love with Hajime, and then there's some like nice little moments that sort of like bridge the gap between them to justify them sort of like drifting together and then marrying him and joining his ever-expanding fucking harem.
And he has a harem. It's a sizable one too.
And it's a harem. Like, this isn't one of those things that you can play coy and do the whole thing that I do with Seo Koji manga, and I'm like, it's not a harem. You know that girl's gonna be the one who wins in the end. And
it's not, again, it's not Asuna syndrome, right? Like, it is literally a harem.
Like, this is a literal harem in the most overt sense of the term. And you're here. You're going in for spoilers. In the novel, he marries at least 6 different women. So
yeah, dude. Like, he goes ham. And the girls are all high quality, too. Like, peak quality girls.
And it's one of those things that's, like, it's really funny because this is a male power fantasy. This is catering to us. We are both relatively straight men.
Yeah, like you're not straight. I am, but we're weebs. We walk the line on occasion.
And the thing is that this is catered to us. So of course, like this is. But the thing is I've read enough and I have watched enough, and so has Pac, to recognize that pandering doesn't mean you're going to enjoy it.
No, it doesn't.
Like, I have read dozens of the trashiest isekai with 40-word titles that you can imagine. I've read isekais about a blacksmith, and his like ability is he literally grinds his ability early on by making copies of chairs.
You've made a mistake. You've made a mistake about talking about this, because for the past month, one of our patrons, shout out Elv, recommended me this isekai light novel. But about going back in time, like, one guy gets killed in the war in Afghanistan and gets isekai'd back to like a 14th century German baronet, right? And this is like it does the same thing Arifureta does, where it like references like popular culture, and it's obvious that this is like the kind of guy who wrote this light novel is literally the kind of guy who has logged 1,000 hours in Hearts of Iron, but he's only ever played Nazi Germany, right? This is the guy who has logged 2,000 hours in Crusader Kings and Europa Universalis, and has only ever played the Holy Roman Empire, so he can play the Greater German Reich. So, and the politics of it are, well, let's just say during one of their speeches, the main character has, and I'm quoting the novel directly here, curls in an evil smile and yells "Hail Victory," and he's speaking German, so you can guess exactly. But the point of that light novel is he's from a small kingship. Like, if you were playing a game of Crusader Kings, he's from a small baronet and uses his knowledge of the future because he's from the Army Corps of Engineers and he has a photographic memory, because of course he's a wish fulfillment protagonist, and uses it to advance his small little kingdom into, like, the Prussian era, and so he conquers Germany with modern technology in the 15th century. And along the way, he collects a massive amount of anachronistic harem members. You know, they are supposedly 14th and 15th century women with 15th century sensibilities, but of course he makes them lingerie and, you know, makes them call him master like cat girls, and, you know, they have orgies and threesomes. And okay, long story short, basically, this is what I have read, and I'm telling you, the depths that you can plunge in light novel pandering, holy shit, this thing, like, kind of like in Arifureta, I can imagine in the light novel, this thing only comes alive when the author actually wants to talk about what he wants to talk about, which is the battles and the military strategy and the tactics and the equipment they're using during the battles, right?
In the light novel, yeah, it gets very descriptive during the, like, fight scenes and stuff. And I didn't send you any of those excerpts because as I mentioned, this is not good writing.
No, it's not. And in the novel I'm talking about, it's the same thing. The level of writing is shit.
However, and this is what I must emphasize, the one area that for Arifureta sort of sticks the landing on is its comedy. And I know this is a really common criticism of the series, is that like it starts off as like an edgy action adventure series, and that pivots into like a harem fantasy comedy. And I agree, it's a very jarring transition, and it comes really fast. Like, once they're out of the Orcus lab, the genre changes entirely.
Yeah, dude, because it starts from this, like, gritty survival action series, and then, like, even then it's got, like, you can see hints of it starting when he meets Yue. But, like...
Yeah, and it accelerates as we go through the lab with him and Yue, particularly during the bath scene. So I'm going to read a section of the text out here.
And we're getting demonetized.
No, I deliberately made sure there's nothing in here that can get us done in.
Get us done in by the YouTube gods.
Yue, I distinctly remember telling you multiple times that I want to bathe alone. So why are you here? Hajime knew the flush rising up his body had nothing to do with the heat of the water. He scolded Yue more angrily than usual, trying to hide his excitement. Yue could easily tell what was going through Hajime's mind at the moment, so she gave him her most seductive, sidelong glance yet, as she replied, "But I refuse. Hey, when did you get the time to read JoJo?" And that's the kind of humor that we're dealing with, because it alternates between these sort of like hee ha tongue-in-cheek jokes and just outright referential humor. And it's weird because like I've read a fair amount of light novels at this point, and I haven't seen one that's quite this blatant with its references. Also, the reference humor isn't that funny, but man, I still like snickered at a few of them. The Dungeons one definitely took me out, but man, that JoJo's one, I just sat there, I was like, fuck you, you son of a fuck. Like, no, how dare you?
Excuse me, is this a motherfucking JoJo's reference? Yes, it is! No, but, like, this is the thing, right? This show, like, it ticks all those boxes. Because I'm a military otaku, and he's rocking guns, he's looking cool, he's got a robot arm, he's got... like a long black trench coat with a tie. He's looking fly as fuck. He gets a cool eye patch. Like,
he has the world's shittiest tie.
Yeah, he's got like a 50 cal. He's got guns. He has a minigun at one stage. You know, like, he's got a fucking Humvee with missile launchers. Like, not tow launch. He doesn't have a tow launcher. Like, he's got missile launchers, literally. He's got a submarine with like cruise missile capability, I think. Like,
so he spends months in the Orcus lab, and like, I get it. He spends like the majority of the time making more bullets and like other gear. But man, I'm just constantly amazed by the sheer amount of ammunition this man has, because he's the only one who can create it. So like, it's incredible to me that he just has this. It's that and the healing potions that do my head in.
Yeah, because you can only supposedly Hugh can only get those healing potions from like that
the crystal that he literally found when he was like almost dead.
Which means that he's got to have recovered that crystal, and like he has this weird thing like Ring of Holding, which opens like a parallel magic dimension which he can fabricate and store all this shit in. So he's made like 5 or 6 different full-size vehicles which he can just summon out of the ether like they're nothing, right? He's also got all of, like, dude is OP. Like, the guy is
by far probably one of the most overpowered protags I've ever read,
with the exception of Ainz Ulgaun from Overlord,
which is literally given with the justification that Ainz is an end game character stepping into a world where there's no one on his level.
Yeah,
right? And
like,
he brings everything with him too.
And the thing is, Ainz still levels up while he's in like Yggdrasil as well. So like he's getting more powerful. Like he does the whole kingdom builder thing. So
yeah,
with the exception of Ainz,
which is funny because you could almost see that kind of happening here. I know it doesn't because like synopsis and stuff, because as much as proud as I am of my ability to speed read, folks, I cannot read 12 volumes of a light novel in the space of a few days, because that's how long we've done this all in. We put this together in a space of a couple days.
Yeah.
So
like
we are like flying.
Like the thing is though, it goes down easy, but getting what I was pointing out, like Einzelgaun is like Overlord is an incredible series and has the same problem this one does, which is, hey guys, we're being attacked by bad CG. We'll also, talk.
Okay. This is something where this is something that happens in all light novels, including things like Slime. You know, that time I was reincarnated as a slime. Okay, so
which doesn't have bad CG.
Yes. Sometimes. But so yeah, when Hajime is in the mines, he is leveling up, blah 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 blah. And there's this thing light novels do, especially in this genre, where the protag will go along and do and sort of it's the closest equivalent to a fucking like montage scene, but like it'll be like he gained all these skills, and
we're gonna need a montage.
That's fine. That's fine, but it drives me insane from a reader perspective, a viewer perspective. Like, it doesn't matter if this is in anime form or in manga form or in light novel form. In light novel form, it explains it to all you, and I'm like, guess what? This means jack shit, because all it just means is the MC is just going ping, 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 ping. I'm so much stronger now. And I'm like, there's nothing satisfying about that trajectory. And that's why the best parts of Arifureta aren't the underground scenes, but it's the aftermath where we see him practically using his skills.
Yeah, and that's what I like about, like, Einzelgaun, like, from Overlord, which is a comparison I'm making a lot to this series because there are a lot of similarities. You kind of buy his bullshit because he's already at, like, max level and OP as fuck when he gets transported. So it makes sense. But that's, like, the only fault I have with Arifureta and other wish fulfillment shows like this that go the montage route, where they're like, I don't know, like, I haven't watched the show very much, but the one thing I really love about Dr. Stone, and the thing I like about anime like Log Horizon and Konosuba, is seeing this band of plucky heroes building up their capability, right? And Arifureta, like, yeah, there's like a couple of scenes of it, and he's like, alright, I'm a badass now. And I'm like, well, I guess. And normally, that kills the vibe. But again, this show, as we're going to keep repeating ourselves a million times saying it, does what shows like this should do. It does what, in my opinion, High School of the Dead, God rest the author, does. Which is, I know exactly what this is. You know why we're here. I know why I'm here. Let's go murder some zombies with some panty shots and some tits. Let's go conquer the world with my harem of beautiful monster girls, with my 50 cal rifle and my dual-wielding fucking pistols with robot arm. Like, let's just go be a badass. Let's go explore this. And his world design is awesome. Like, the lore, the characters, the world, the
it's
background.
Weird because like, on its face, the anime is really trash, and it is a terrible adaptation across the board, right? The direction is chaotic at times. The first episode is genuinely one of the worst directed
it's terrible.
First episodes I have ever seen. I have watched Konbini Koreshi from episode 1 to 12. I have seen some of the worst anime there.
And we didn't even do it for the podcast. This fucker did it voluntarily. He's not well. He's not well.
I did it for fun.
I need a doctor for this man.
And this series, its first episode is still worse than those shows. It is flashbacks on flashbacks on flashbacks, to the point that you will not know what is supposed to be the present time that we're supposed to be in.
And worse CG than the bear from Golden Kamuy, like,
terrible
god-awful
terrible CG. At least the bear in Golden Kamuy, I guess, looked kind of real.
It looked a bear.
It looked like a bear, but it looked like a real bear, not a anime bear.
You could say it was bearable. Hey, we reused that joke. Like
fucking.
But
anyway, the point is that like from episode 1 to episode 13, and I'm gonna let Pete speak to the season 2. This is something that does it improves, right? Like as the show goes on, the CG starts dropping off a little bit in season 1.
Yeah.
Like especially in the final fight. And this can't be emphasized enough. There's a lot more 2D animation than I expected for that fight.
Yeah, 100%.
Also, okay, I am happy to throw down on this. This has some of the worst fight choreography I have ever seen in the anime. It's so bad. It is embarrassing. There's bits where like Shay does like a front flip and it looks like they just rotated the canvas.
Yeah, look, honestly, the big, like, it's not even that shit. I can like let that slide. The thing that made me angry about this fight choreography is that our main boy Hajime, for all his OP-ness, doesn't get to flex his OP-ness with the rule of cool. You know what I mean? The only time he really flexes his OP-ness in the rule of cool is when they're fighting the dragon on the bottom floor, and he's not even OP in that scene. It's a really tough fight. And while the CG is bad, even though the CG for that fight wasn't good at all, it was trash.
I was so bad. I would have been embarrassed in 2005.
Yeah, and yet I was invested in the fight. It was fun. It was cool. Like, they were on the edge. They were pushing it. And he was being rule of cool. He was struggling to win, and there was shit going down, right? And then, after that fight, nothing really compares. All he does is stand about 15 feet back from the enemy and grabs his gun and shoots. It's Bunny Girl that has all the cool shit, and the Dragonborn Girl. They are the ones with all the cool shit happening, because both he and Yue literally stand 50 feet back, which, granted, it's the smart decision, and just blast. But the thing is, in anime like one we're going to talk about a lot later, I can't wait, and anime like Strike Witches and other shit, and like anime that do it really well, like Attack on Titan and even Demon Slayer in some parts to an extent, right? Like, when you have people with guns or people with like ranged weapons, even if they're standing back at range, they're moving, they're dodging, they're dual wielding, they're firing, their uniform is flapping around while they're dual wielding their pistols, or the machine gun is rattling as they're like having expressions and changing targets and acquiring new tactics and doing all that cool shit. In this, homie literally just stands, raises one arm, and goes bang. The coolest sequences of the battle in like the later scenes is when he reloads. The reload animation is mwah. Speed loader for a revolver, click clack, boom, looks cool. The rest of it is literally him just raising his arm and going pew pew pew.
And it's really noticeable, but they don't have a lot of shots of Hajime actually shooting things. Like, it will always be, you'll see either Hajime's guns shooting, firing, and it'll be a face shot of him, and then it will pivot over to the monster getting hit by the bullets.
Yeah.
That's about the extent. That's what we're talking here. And every fight is like this. It is exhausting.
Yeah.
Like it's like, we've been talking about the fun parts of this show, but this is where it really is bad.
The fights.
Like, and this is where the manga and the light novel absolutely have the advantage. The light novel is descriptive. It's like,
and the manga's fight panels are fucking nuts.
And yeah, like, it cracks me up because the manga can have like really sort of averagey sort of rom-com like fantasy style art, and then just alternate into these like baller battle scenes.
They're actually like, insane. Like, the first fight scene and the fight scene against like the Cobra Dragon thing in the manga are insane. The panels are so good.
And we're gonna like, I'm gonna collect some panels and stuff so that we can throw these up during this video, so you guys will be able to see, and we'll put some comparisons with the anime alongside it, so you guys can truly appreciate the
like what I'll do is I'll put a
disaster
clip
level
of the
CGI.
fights. I'll put a clip of the fights during this sequence. I'll just randomly play them, and I'll have like fights from the anime, and then like I'll put, and after I've gone through the fights, I'll then put like the manga panels for you guys. While we're talking about me doing this in post, I'm actually going to put it up while I'm talking about doing this in post for that extra meta effect. But the point is, dude,
which is appropriate because this series
is meta as fuck. Yeah, like,
it's like self-aware. It likes to have a bit of a laugh at its own expense. You know, like Hajime is embarrassed by the fact that he looks like a Toonie cutout, which is a joke from the fucking not the light novel, the joke from the manga that they cut out is that during that last sequence of the show, there's a sequence where Shizuku and Hajime are talking and the other girls are watching, and Yue is quite jealous and refers to Shizuku as the final boss. This scene actually plays out completely differently in the manga, and it's him and her standing in the forest, and she basically clowns on him by saying, well, you better look after Kaori, or I'm going to reveal your secret to the world, and basically starts listing off like Toonie names like Alabaster, Executioner, Outbreak, Patroller of Destruction, Obsidian Tyrant, Crimson Thunder Synergist, Shotgun Chaos, Reverse Calamity.
Oh my god, what names? No, actually, quite frankly, it is some of the best content is when he's getting roasted by his party members. Like, even in the anime, that is the best content. Like, although the best moment in like terms of character interaction is obviously, you and I both agree, it's the first interaction between Yue and Hajime, because Hajime kills all these golems and demons and ogres to get into this catacomb where Yue is trapped after being betrayed by the vampires. Should point out that the vampires have been exterminated by the humans during a war with the demons, yada yada. She's the last vampire. She's been locked in there for 300 years.
Oh, I guess, yeah, I was about to say there's a lot of last, like, of their race characters here, but Tio isn't actually the last
Tio's not. She's part of a final...
last of the royalty.
Yeah, she's the last of the royalty. Like, the Dragonborn still... like, there's, like, a Dragonborn colony of, like, a couple of thousand out there, but she's, like, the only royalty left. And so, like... Anyway, Yue is the last vampire, and I'm guessing there's probably demon vampires, but she's the last pure blood, like, super vampire.
Yeah, because she can regenerate.
Because she can regenerate.
Her special ability.
And that's her ability.
Also, she can do magic without circles or...
Yeah, she's a...
Also, okay, so that was a really big sticky point for me when I watched the anime and read the manga, is, like, Yue, despite the fact that the manga explicitly says she doesn't need to, like, say magic stuff to do magic, right? She's got the same, like, mana manipulation that Hajime does. She's just got affinity for magic as well. So she doesn't need...
She still says the attacks and shit, though.
She still says the attacks and shit. They explained this in the novel, and I thought it was a really funny explanation, but basically it's that she did it for so long with the full names that she still does it because it's ingrained to her. And that's the reason that she still calls her attack names.
And they are pretty baller attack names. Actually, that's something I will talk about, but we'll finish this story first. The way they meet, right? Because
yes.
Like, because Hajime is an otaku, he has played a shitload of RPGs and a shitload of games.
Clarify, his dad is a game... No.
A game dev.
No, okay. I think his dad's a game dev and his mum's a mangaka. And there's a sequence in the book which isn't included in the manga or the anime, but basically in it, his dad and him talk about game design, where his dad also points out that the game that Hajime has just designed has a blonde-haired lolly in it.
Yeah. Foreshadowing.
And that's the thing. So this is a kid who is aware of tropes. He's aware of, like, cliches. And when he's in the mines, he is genre savvy here. And this is where it comes in handy. And that's what makes this sequence so fucking funny. So he has fought his way past two enormous fucking ogres. He is, like, had this, like, desperate fight. He's like, okay, time to open this fucking door. He opens the door and the room is dark and then slowly lights up. And then in the center, there's this giant golden fucking cube with a woman trapped inside of it, and it's a 300-year lolly vampire, of course.
Because this is anime.
This is anime. It's also referenced in the novel. He's like, oh my god, they even have 300-year-old model lollies in. That's so funny. Anyway, he looks at her, and she notices him. And he simply says, sorry for intruding, and tries to shut the door and leave.
Yeah, because like homie's just like fought his way through ogres. He's like, he sees a 300-year-old vampire trapped in a golden cube, and he's like, yep, this is a boss or a trap. Nah, fuck that. I'm out. Like, see you later, goodbye.
It should be emphasized, the last time he used his powers on the door, that's what activated the ogres. So he is completely justified in being like, here's another clear activate with magic trap. Let's not do this.
It's not until that he talks to her and realizes, oh,
that
she's
was also
legit.
Betrayed.
She was betrayed, and that's why he saves her, because she also got fucked over by her family and friends, and he's like, you want to go get revenge together? Yeah. So
and thus and thus the I'm not a lolicon pipe begins again.
Yeah,
which is actually a repeated joke in the manga, is that Hajime's like, I'm not in love with her, I'm not a lolicon. Yeah,
except it's canon and they fuck, so like, yeah.
And the novel does not put it kindly. It's very overt about it. No like actual like sex scenes or anything, but you know, it's pretty clear what just went down. And these kinds of like character humor moments are where I think the series does excel. There's some really nice ones with Shay, although I do find her to be a bit grating because she is so over the top.
You know what?
Tio, despite liking Tio, I do get her.
Actually,
the voice actor does a really good job making her annoying, by the way.
Look, honestly, I think the one character that grated on me, the only character that really, really grated on me, was Tio to an extent, for the same reason that Darkness grates on you after a while. It's the same gag.
I think that like it's and also she's way more overt about it than Darkness is. Like
also,
everyone knows
but Tio is also way hotter than Darkness in my opinion.
True.
Like
starting fights, she is quite a cute anime girl.
Look, big titty dragon lady, brunette in like kimono. Beats like blonde bombshell knight. I mean, the other thing Darkness has is Christina V dubs her in English, so she gets extra points. But it's I'm still leaning towards the Dragonborn chick on this one. But yeah,
and I think that's really good because it works really well for the character, and it also makes like Hajime's frustration with her so much more
it's hysterical because as the audience gets irritated with her horniness because the joke wears off after a while, Hajime does too, because he's also aware of how cliche and irritating it is, so he kind of breaks the fourth wall with it. And I think what really makes me happy about it is that Tio, in my opinion, has the best introduction of all the characters in the series. Like,
oh, fuck it.
Yue's is great, but Tio's introduction is mint. It is the funniest shit.
It is legitimately one of the most psychotic scenes I've ever seen in anime.
It's so good, though.
One of the funniest things to me is that, like, when we were watching, we were, like, looking at the comment section and stuff as we went, because we watched the first 6 episodes together, and then we went our separate ways to do our own thing. And I kept reading the comment sections, blah, blah, blah. And one comment that kept cracking up was that people who were mad that their favorite light novel or favorite manga, depending on where they came from, was getting this like really shitty adaptation, was that they were like, it's going to cut out that scene. And I have to say that scene because I don't want us to get ripped off of the fucking internet. There is a scene where Hajime does something to Tio and does it repeatedly to Tio. And it's done for humor. I cannot describe it in any more detail because if I did, we are going to get age restricted, demonetized, and everything else under the sun.
Yep.
But that scene does actually make it into the anime and is it's a very wild establishing character moment. And I think the funniest thing about it is how uncomfortable everyone else is during the scene. everyone is fully aware of what's going on, except for Hajime, who is having a bad time the whole time.
Yeah, he doesn't realize what he's stimulating. Yeah. And so
we'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that to avoid getting demonetized.
Move past it,
but
so
like, it's one of the funniest character intros I've ever seen, and the way it happens is just so funny. And what I really like is, as unrealistic as it is in our experiences across both life and dealing with the fair agenda, shall we put it, how chill all the harem members are with each other.
I think it's because, unlike a lot of other harem series, it's established that the harem girls do have feelings for each other. They do as well.
They're like friends.
Yue explicitly says that she's in love with Shay, but it's not the same kind of love that she has with Hajime. And Tio they like her. She's weird and they call her the pervert, but they like having her around and they think she's pretty funny. And that's the sort of thing, is I think that's why it works, because like a lot of, and this, don't get me wrong, these girls play fucking hard. Like, compared to like other harem series, these like girls are throwing themselves aggressively at the pro tag. You know, like Shay, when she gets revived from drowning, Hajime is doing mouth to mouth. She responds by becoming conscious and wrapping her arms and legs around him and going for a tongue kiss.
Yeah, like, they're aggressive. They're playing to win. And Tio especially, always DTF. Like, flat out DTF at any time, any place, anywhere.
But the funniest part is that she actually gets more out of him turning her down than anything else, because that's also her kink. So, win-win for her.
Yeah, like, absolute win, right? And so, this is the thing. I find that the female characters, by embracing the trashiness of the anime, somehow the female characters have become more believable and more likable than any of the other isekai girls I've seen in a long time. I like them. And I believe their relationship a lot more than I believe a certain relationship between a certain sniper and a certain swordswoman. I believe this relationship a lot more than I believe that one.
And like, we're talking about it like this, but we should be very clear on this fact. These are not well-written characters.
Oh no,
they are shallow. They are two-dimensional. They have like one note. Most of them have one thing. You know, Yue, she's quiet and cool and collected, except she gets frustrated or like outright angry when girls flirt with Hajime in front of her. Unless it's like Shay, but it's more about like she wants to like have more of Hajime's time. Vice versa, you have like Shay, who is just like the gag character here. She is like the butt of so much physical comedy. Like, she's getting thrown around, drowning, blah, 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 blah. You know, she is the butt of the joke pretty much 9 times out of 10. And like, she has her nice character moments, but because the anime is a terrible fucking adaptation, it cut out the entire arc of our introduction to her.
Yeah.
So basically, for reference, that felt quick from your perspective, right? You like when you
you meet her and they become
quick.
Besties.
They meet her, they can become okay with her, then Hajime trains the family in the trees, and then they find the thing, they can't do it because they need all the rings, and they're like, fuck it, alright, we'll go do that first, and then they leave, right? That is so much longer in the novel.
Yeah, and they montage it, and you can see them doing it, and there's a lot of stories in between there, I'm sure.
They cut out, like, it is critical, they cut out the entire fact that, though, like, why are those rabbit people, like the bunny people in the trees, like in the forest in the first place? It's because they've been kicked out for sheltering her. Right?
Yeah.
And we get a whole experience where we go and visit that particular thing. We meet all the like different beast men, blah, 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 blah. That's all fleshed out in the manga and the novel. The manga less so than the novel. But, and this is the thing that like makes it so frustrating, is that that's actually some pretty interesting establishing character moments for Shay.
It's also very good world building for the world we're in. And they cut it. They cut it out.
They cut it wholesale. Like we get fuck all of it.
We get a montage.
We lose my favorite part, which is Hajime training. Because Hajime does train the bunny people in the anime, but it's very truncated, very short.
Yeah.
In the manga, it's much funnier, and I think they did a really good job of it.
They become badasses.
They do become badasses, but in the novel, they do. In the novel and the manga, they do revert quite quickly because Hajime realizes he's gone too far. It's quite funny. It's actually very funny. But like, because they obviously stay buff, but like, yeah, they regain their sort of like a little bit of their timid personalities. But man, it's this over and over thing with this series is that like the writing is average, the story is nothing outstanding. The world is actually interesting. Like
I feel
like a better writer could have done this world justice.
I think what you got is the Overlord effect, and look, Overlord does this sort of thing a whole lot better. Watch that as well, by the way. Just if you haven't seen Overlord, like you should have by now, and it's getting another season, so you should. But Overlord does it better. Like a lot of things in Isekai, Overlord does better. But like, I feel like when you watch Overlord, because the guy who wrote Overlord is a former DM. You can tell that this guy designed the world, the lore, the characters, the empires, the history, the languages they speak. He designed all of that. Same with Log Horizon. They designed all of that and then put their quirky cast of characters into it. I think this is what this guy has done. It's just he's not as good or anywhere near as good as the other authors we're used to, right? But again, against all odds, I'm anime only, so my impact should be even more when you consider this, because the anime, as we've established, is the most inferior version. As an anime only, I always found myself clicking next episode. Every time. I was having a blast. This was so much fun. I was laughing. I was enjoying the fights, even if they were poorly animated. Like, the story was cheesy as fuck, and I was loving every second of it. And I
think this is something we talked about on our last episode, is the fact that like a series can have competent writing and competent like characters, like, and actually come out with like a semi-decent story or like a semi-interesting story, right? And it can be fucking boring. God
awful. Like Angels of Death I hated that show.
This series is the flip side of the equation. It is bad characters. It is bad setting. It is not bad setting. Bad ideas. It is like there's so much to fucking fault here. But do you know what? I hate this series, and I still fucking, every time I see that fucking update ping on my manga website, I fucking read it.
Yeah.
Because it's fun.
I'm up to season 2, and for those who are asking, yes, season 2, because of the rollaway success they got with season 1, season 2, the CGI is now good-ish. For seasonal anime,
bad.
For seasonal anime, the CGI is incredible. It's not Ufotable or Demon Slayer or Attack on Titan, so don't get your hopes up. Fact of the matter is, it is an isekai wish fulfillment show that's a seasonal. So it's still going to have dodgy CG, but it's the least dodgy CG of a seasonal isekai I've seen in a very long time. The combat sequences, the introduction to his stepdaughter, who we haven't even talked about, Mayu, who he picks up,
Mew. Learn your pronunciation.
Mew rescues her from slavery, like another Mew. Only that one was probably slightly more interesting than this one, given that it's also technically God. Shout out to Pokemon. But this, he rescues a small little merfolk person, a small merfolk girl from slavers, and then in a naturally measured and can we agree on this absolutely based response? Decides to shut down they dared hurt his little girl, so he decides to shut down the entire trafficking ring himself.
And also, and not only that, and I think this was a bit better conveyed by the manga, but he also kills every single person who attended the fucking
he kills
auction.
They're like, wait, we were only customers. Like, I don't give a fuck, you were going to buy this little girl, I'm going to kill you. And like, flat out, like, and she's a great little character, but that's the other part of the story, right? I hate this show, but I love it. And yes, this is a wish fulfillment character, right? But he also is very clearly an otaku loner badass who just wants to go home and read his visual novels and fuck his hot girls. He doesn't care about all of this political nonsense. But the great thing is, all the girls around him see the world going to shit and are like, we have the power to do something about it. We really should. And he's just like, fine.
A scene they cut from the anime, and I think it was a sad state of affairs, is the scene in the aftermath of them recapturing Mew, like taking back Mew, where he gets dragged by the Adventurers Guild, where the guy reads this out and says, 9 buildings completely eradicated, 15 in ruins, and 32 barely standing. 38 people dead, 44 disabled for life, 28 heavily wounded, and 119 still missing. It's nothing short of a miracle that no civilians were harmed at all. Care to explain yourselves? They pissed me off, so I wiped them out. I have no regrets, and I won't apologize.
Like, flat out. Can we, and as I was about to say, can we just appreciate based? Shutting down human trafficking with your, like, bunny girl with a hammer, dragonborn girl setting them on fire, and you getting them all. Like, the fact that they openly resort to torture with fire to get information to find out where the other people are, like, doesn't give a fuck. Like, yeah, but that's the thing. When they pick up Kaori, the healer girl, later on, and they've got Mew with them, and even like Yue doesn't, because she's a 300-year-old vampire, and these mortals are beneath her. But all the other members of the harem, they actually, while they are 2D, they are also good people to an extent. Yeah, they have their faults here and there, but they're good people to an extent, and they're rolling with this absolute badass. And so whenever they, like, he's not it's like the reluctant hero thing. He ends up by complete accident in all of these situations and saves the day because the girls won't forgive him if he doesn't. Right?
He gets dragged kicking and screaming into pretty much all of these scenarios.
Yeah.
Like, and I think, and this is, I was literally just about to mention this brings me to probably evaluating like my favorite story writing moments. So as we know, I've established that I'm not particularly wooed by big fight scenes, and especially not in this fucking series. It doesn't matter if it's the manga.
This guy can't write.
The manga's pretty cool. The anime sucks. The light novel is, it's okay. But I'm not one to be easily wooed by a flashy action scene, right? So here's my favorite story parts. It's the 2 encounters with the original party.
Yeah, absolutely.
When Hajime encounters them while on the trip to the mountains and encounters Aiko Sensei and the rest, the extras who basically are just known names who just sort of fill space. And when he saves the hero party. These moments I feel they're good-ish catharsis, and they're quite fun to witness, especially the stuff with Aiko Sensei. Like, that shit is so funny to me, right? Like, Hajime walks in with, like, these 2 girls in tow. They're scantily clad. He looks like a fucking menace. And sits down and they're all shit-talking each other and fucking around. And Aiko Sensei, after hearing his name, is like, oh my god, can it be him? Walks up and she's like, Hajime Nagamo? And he's like, Sensei? And she's like, it really is you. And he's like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah,
sorry.
exactly. He instinctively reacts to Sensei and then like, oh wait, no, shit, fuck. No, who the fuck are you?
Don't know who you're talking about.
Who
Goodbye.
are you? Like, that is one of the best scenes in the whole show. Like, flat out. Like, it's so good. I also love the fact that, rather suggestively, his sensei, because she's really good at agriculture and farming, is known as the goddess of fertility, because she's literally the teacher of all of these students, right? So she's superior to the students, and she was summoned by the gods, and she's good at farming. So while all the students are called heroes, she's actually called a goddess because she's their teacher, and she just ended up there. Little bit of lore that I like, but
I also I thought it was a nice little character moment where Hajime, in a moment of rare, like, genuine joy, is adventuring that way in the first place. Like, he's happy to go on this quest, not because he really wants to help the kid, but because he's hoping to find rice, because he's so desperate to have rice again.
Dude, like, that is a plot point in that shitty light novel I was talking about earlier that Elle forced me to read. He wants to engage sorry, buddy, it's terrible. He wants to Berengar from the Austrian Duchy of Kurfstein wants to go on massive colonial genocide just so he can get coffee and potatoes. Because he has grown up in the US Army and therefore lives off hash browns and coffee to survive. And he's now in medieval Austria. So he wants to wage genocidal colonization to get coffee and fucking potatoes. And, like, the fact that this guy's just like, this place grows rice. I'm from Japan. I haven't had rice in, like, 6 months. I need it. I'm gonna die. I'm like, honestly, mate, like, let's be honest, right? If someone denied us a Nutella sandwich for 6 months, like,
I'd get by. I don't eat Nutella that much. On the other hand, I would fight fucking God himself. It meant that I could have fucking toast with butter and Vegemite.
Yeah, like, okay, that's the thing. I'm not a Vegemite guy, but I'm a Nutella guy. You're a Vegemite guy. Analogous for the same thing, right? Australian iconic foods. If people told, like, you know what? It's middle ground. If someone told us that we wouldn't be able to get a Lamington for 6 months, I'm gonna fight somebody. I'm gonna actually fight, like, no Tim Tams, no Lamingtons. Oh, but I have to bleep myself. I'm about to fight you, right? like, dude. But I get it. I get where he's coming from. So the fact that he's going on this quest to fight like 30,000 monsters and save this rich kid and meet a dragon girl, like all of this sort of shit. The fact he goes on this quest and has all these adventures solely because he wants a bowl of rice is so fucking. He's so relatable.
Okay, so I want to bring up, like, I brought it up before, very early on in this episode, but talk about it again, is in the light novel there's a running gag where Hajime, when he's surprised or stunned by something that somebody is saying to him, will switch to a, like, weird, it's described by the novel as a weird accent. And the first example of this is literally in the first chapter where he says, "I'm tired of your shit." He's exasperated and mind screamed out in some strange dialect. Then later on, we encountered this again when he says, "What in tarnation?" Hajime was so shocked that he unintentionally flipped into an odd accent for a moment there. Kaori looked at him blankly as she must not have heard him right. And another, the most offensive example. Okay, so look. I get it. You're localizing. You're going to try and you're like trying to land this joke. It's tricky, and I get it. I've been around translators enough to know the deal with localization. However, pick a fucking accent and stick with it if you're doing this shit. The fact that we have these like southernisms, right? Classic southern US sort of like linguistic colloquialisms, right?
Yeah. And
near the end of volume 1, when Hajime proposes to Yue, she asks him, "Are you proposing to me?" To which he responds,
You fucking what, mate? You what, mate?
You what? Which is funny. which is funny. It's funny, but fucking
Are you having a laugh, mate?
fucking hell,
Dude, like,
oh, may as well call him a gammon. Fucking hell.
like when did we?
But-
Oh, like, okay, look, I just looked at my recording time. We've been at this for an hour and 15 minutes. We should probably start talking about, like, our rounding up thoughts. Because otherwise, like, we could obviously talk about this show for, like...
Then let me quickly go into the broadness of the manga and the light novel. We'll do this section specifically for this.
Roger.
Because it deserves its place, right?
I'm not saying anything. Go.
Okay.
Go.
So, with the manga, its art varies between exceptionally cool, very detailed, like, line art with, like, very, like, intense details and very generic rom-com art, which absolutely stuns me because the author is, like, the mangaka is just, like, all over the place. But a lot of the gags land really well because of this. And it also seals that the action sequences are also really good. This is a thing similar to Slime as well. Slime's manga did the same thing alongside the light novel. The light novel illustrations are some of the worst light novel illustrations I have ever fucking seen. I have read a lot of light novels. I have read a lot of trashy light novels. Man, the art in that is rough. Also, I don't like seeing UA because it's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. Fine with the relationship, not so okay with the having to. So the light novel overall is pretty good prose. It's pretty good. It's expressive enough that, like, you can enjoy it, but, like, the edgy sequences can come off as really over the top. Here's a direct quote. Anything that threatened his life was an enemy, and all enemies were to be killed. Kill, 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 kill. He goes on like this for He goes on like this for 3 lines. 3 full lines, pretty much.
Yep.
And there's a lot of, like, okay, this is something I feel like I have to explain to people who rate this novel so highly. Just because there's details here doesn't mean it's good.
Looking at
and
you,
this is
Tolkien.
the thing I see.
Looking at you, Tolkien.
Like, and this is the thing I see a lot. People, like, overrate something because it's like, oh, well, they explained everything. And it's like, sure, I love Brandon Sanderson and I love hard magic. And I love clearly defined lines to what magic can and can't do. However, it doesn't improve the quality of the story if it's still used in an uninspired or, frankly, boring at times way. I liked seeing how he had to figure out what some of these abilities did because he didn't really have any clue. You know, or like how Hajime's, like, naming conventions for things worked, you know, this sort of things. But overall, the novel left me kind of just wanting to read the manga. And I'm going to use this as my hop across. So the manga, again, pretty good art. The story pacing is brisk. It doesn't slow down too much, but it also doesn't cut out as much as the anime does. And it's better for this. And there's things I wish that they'd included from the light novel a bit more detailed, but it is what it is, right? And overall, I'd say the manga slightly pings out the light novel. The light novel feels kind of amateurish. The prose is like something I'd associate with quite young writing. And which is a bit weird given the subject matter at times. And yeah, like, this is targeted at, like, younger people. It's a light novel. But, like, yeah, the writing it's nothing to write home about, and I definitely wouldn't recommend pitching this one to your English teacher as a
I wouldn't either.
Text. But I enjoyed it. Like, I'm not going to, like, pretend like and like put my critic goggles on and be like, all of these faults. I still had fun. Like, I was sending Pack, like, screenshots and giggling about things. Especially, like, the, like, jokes about, like, his Chuny moments I thought were really funny. For example, white hair, a fake arm, and an eye patch. Hajime looked like some kind of edgy anime protagonist now. The kind that might have spouted cliched lines like, "Be still, my sealed left arm." When he had seen himself in the mirror, Hajime had been so depressed that he had spent an entire day moping in bed. Yue had to resort to some rather drastic measures to finally cheer him up. That's a direct quote, by the way. And that's the kind of like stuff we're dealing with here. It's like decent for like the comedic stuff, and I think that like I don't think it would have worked. And I think it shows his sort of, I don't guess, inexperience within the genre conventions. But like, yeah, there's like a lot more to grow here. And if you want like better sort of light novel writing, I'd probably recommend something like Grimgar, which it feels a lot more mature. They both do the whole like this world kind of fucking sucks thing.
Yeah, they definitely
Grimgar does it so much better, and its characters, etc., are like, they land way better. And it's at this point that I'm regretting that we didn't do Grimgar, because then I could have justified reading the novels for that.
Quite frankly, as much as I like this, if you've got a gun to your head and you have to pick between the two, go do Grimgar. Trust me.
And then you can just watch this when you're feeling depressed and you want to, I don't know, find the courage.
I guess, rounding up, I mean, as the guy who's I guess this episode's expert on the anime, because I'm an anime only, Ivy here got ruined by the fact that he has context from both the novel and the manga, so the anime is an abomination.
Every single thing they did wrong, I was more keenly aware. And like, yeah, I might have had like a different experience if I just watched it. I mean, I still would have fucking like loathed the fight choreography. By the way, if you want to see the peak of how bad this can get, episode, I think it's 11, so we're in the final fight here, mind you. There is some absolutely shocking choreography with Shizuku Koki and the like demon they're fighting, where there's like it looks like they like grab a like drawing of Koki and like pull him away as the beam hits. It's so bad.
Yeah.
It is like shockingly terrible stuff. And it's annoying because I know this series can do better. Yeah. And I know it won't. I know that like in season 1, I don't know so much about season 2. I've got the first episode.
Season 2 has gotten a lot better in terms of animation and fight scenes. But again, like, overall, we're at 1 minute 22, so let's round this bitch up. Honestly, the cold open was the best thing I could have done for this show. This show is garbage. The characters are terrible. The plot is terrible. The world is terrible. The adaptation is terrible. The animation is decent. The music's good, but the CG just freaking kills it. And I'm on season 2, and I loved every second of it. Quite frankly, it is a show that knows exactly what it is. It knows exactly what it wants to do, and it doubles, triples, and quadruples down on the harem fantasy isekai fun train. That if you go into this going, hell yeah, let's go, it is like, the best way I can put it is, I haven't seen much of Don Machi. I am an SAO fan. I am a Log Horizon super fan. I am a connoisseur of trashy isekai. Like, quite frankly, Overlord. I mean, Overlord and Log Horizon are good isekai, but you know what I mean. Like, this is what I'm talking about. I have seen a lot of isekai, I've done a lot of isekai, and this makes every mistake that all of those shows, and I roast my beloved SAO over the coals for the shit that this anime does. But this anime has gone in and done them, and it is double, tripled, and quadrupled down on them, and it's done the fun part. That's the big thing. They have sacrificed their budget and their stat points, if you will, in every other category for one simple thing. They've maxed out their fun stat. And it works. It is entertaining as hell. And I am watching the second season as it's airing. I am a fan. And I hate the fact that I am. So for me, can't believe I'm saying this, it is a solid 7 out of 10 from me. Flat out. I have to be honest. I can't, I'm giving it a good ranking on Mal. I have to. Because I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. Alright, Ivy, your turn.
Okay, so I have 3 separate scores here. Alright, you'll notice there are some similarities because at the end of the day, it is the same story. But the story is executed differently, so I have given the anime a different score to the other 2. So, let's begin. The anime, obviously, the target of our review today. The story gets a 30, the characters get a 45, the visuals get a 20, and the enjoyment gets a 65. I enjoyed it more than I'd like to admit, right? And that means my average score is 40, so a 4 out of 10 if you choose to round down.
Ugh.
The light novel gets a 40 for story, a 50 for characters, a 55 for visuals, and a 60 for enjoyment, bringing the score to a 51 out of 100. And the manga, as again, it is my favorite of the 3, 40 for the story, 45 for the characters, 70 for the visuals, and 72 for enjoyment, because I enjoy this series far more than I'd like to admit, which gives us an average score of 56. That's the highest of the lot. 56 out of 100.
So, I would say that if we round up that and add in the fact that you've gone across all 3 and your enjoyment levels of the fact that that you enjoyed this series that much that you went and did the manga, the light novel, and the anime, would you call it an overall ranking for Arifureta of 5.5, maybe? 5.5?
Let me quickly calculate this. Let's plug this in. 40 plus 51 plus 56 divided by 3, 49. So my average rating is a 49 out of 100.
So we'll round it up to a 5 on Mal terms.
Yep, 5 on Mal terms. It is a dead 5. If you want to engage with this series, read the manga, please.
Yeah, basically, this show is average in every sense of the word, but if you go in with the right mindset, like myself, if you go in with the trash mindset, it becomes a 7 or an 8, because you just have a blast. You just have a shit ton of fun. It's so, and we can't stress this enough, even though we've spoiled half the show for you. You should have already, from my cold open, you should have already fucked off and watched it. But, if you go into this show with the right mindset, or you don't care about spoilers, literally, it is all worth it for the bit where he gets fucking overpowered and runs into his old classmates again. It is the most satisfying.
Funny as fuck.
It is hilarious, and it is so gratuitously satisfying. It's like when Ainzul Gaon in Overlord, again, the Overlord comparison, just wipes that army of 50,000 people like it was nothing. It's just like, yeah, I'm a badass. Bask in my magnificence, you puny mortals. And so, we have reached the end of this episode, and it is time to roll our next anime. But wait! No!
No. Okay, so first of all, we are going to roll another anime. We are going to roll another anime, but the next episode. Are we going to look at the results? I'm assuming were overwhelming series I didn't want it to be.
Yeah, look, we'll roll another anime, but before we roll it, the next episode will be our first special. And in celebration of this channel, even though it has nothing to do with this podcast, because, only 1,000 of you at most watch us. Hello to all of you. We actually love you. You're our favorite subscribers. Don't tell the others.
We also love the ones of you who comment every week. Every time we put out an episode. You guys are really cool.
DW101, we have seen you. I have seen you.
We see you and we hear you.
Like, my patrons, you all know I talk to you on the regular in our Discord. Shout out. Sponsor. But, in all seriousness, those of you who regularly comment, we appreciate you. And I recently opened up my community page to a poll to be held by our community, so hopefully a large group of my community will show up for the next episode, because it is, in celebration of 25,000 subscribers, Anime Roulette's first Viewer's Choice episode. And the anime that was picked by an overwhelming majority from 4,500 votes, by an overwhelming majority, the next anime that Anime Roulette will be discussing is Gate. And so the JSDF fought there. The Isekai where the modern Japanese military engages in colonialism in another world.
Absolutely outstanding.
Because
absolutely outstanding.
As a military otaku, as all of you know, given the entirety of the rest of the content on my channel, this is one of my favorite shows. It is possibly, deep down, if I'm being honest with myself, it's probably my favorite isekai. It's the one I of all the isekai I've watched, including Arifureta that we've watched recently, this isekai is the one I binged the quickest out of any anime I've ever watched, because it's basically a game of Civ. It's a game of Civ on chieftain difficulty. Like, watching tanks roll over Roman legions is like the most satisfying shit in the world. Watching phantom jets dogfight with dragons is the most satisfying shit in the world. I don't care who you are. And so the next episode we're going to be watching Gate, and it is a 24 episode anime, and Ivy, as our resident anti-imperialist, anti-colonialist, anti-racist anarchist, has to sit here and watch aggressive pro-military Japanese imperialist propaganda.
And also, I have seen your requests, and I will also be reading the Gate manga, because I saw quite a few people in the comments requesting that if we do it, that I also have to read the manga. And so I will be reading both the manga and watching the anime, which is two core. So fucking thanks, guys. I love that you really appreciate what I do here.
I love this show. This is going to be easy. I'm going to get this done in like a week and then go watch something else. And then, like, not even that. I'm going to, like, designate, like, when I'm not working on YouTube, I'm going to, like, designate a day. I'm going to binge the entire series in one hit and then just chill. Ivy here is going to slog crying like a little bitch through the whole thing.
God, it's going to be rough, folks. It's going to be rough.
But it's time for Ivy to roll our next anime, so...
I have earned the right. I have done so much work.
Make sure you set the TV rating to off G, because we don't want any, like, kids anime, because that'd be weird. Yep. And
let's set it only to TVG.
Yeah.
But for now, we're keeping it in the 26
because we don't want to, like... We don't want to do what I did last time, and because I hated the show so much, I originally was planning on skimping out on the last 5, because I was just like, do I really have to? I tried to bail on a technicality, but I didn't. I stuck it out for professionalism.
He did stick it out. He stuck it out.
I hated every second of it, but it's time to roll. Let's go.
Generate single random anime. 1, 2, 3, go.
Go.
Yes!
What?
Yes!
Whoa!
Yes! Ugo Keiji, Balance Unlimited.
The Millionaire Detective!
Yes!
Oh, we rolled a good show! Oh, thank God!
Thank God.
Oh, shit! Oh.
Now, it might be actually quite funny to the two communists are quite gleeful at the fact that we get to roll a show called The Millionaire Detective. However, after the recent streak of pretty terrible shows, I am very glad that we get to watch something that is good.
It's good, and like the show we just watched, it's got one mission: fun. And it,
yes,
and
true. And it is fun.
And this one is, well, we haven't seen it. I haven't. But this is...
I mean, I lived through this airing, and I was also, like, on Tumblr, and people fucking went nuts for this shit.
Like, and it's got a 7.5 score, and I've seen very popular and positive reviews from all the big AniTubers, so, like, I'm confident that this is gonna be fun to watch and it's gonna be easy to talk about. And there's only 11 episodes, which means it's like
easy peasy.
a weekend. So what I'll do is I guess I'll rewatch Gate over the weekend and then like watch this while you have to suffer like a little bitch going through the whole.
For the audience, Daisuke Kanbei, a man of extraordinary wealth, is assigned to the Modern Crime Prevention Headquarters as a detective. It is there that he gets partnered with Haru Kato, a humane detective who values justice above all. The two are polar opposites and their morals clash time and time again. Haru despises Daisuke for his using monetary wealth to solve cases, as he believes that money isn't everything. The two will have to combine their efforts, however, to solve the mysteries that are coming their way. I'm excited for this because this is the first time we're getting... It's been a while since we've covered something that like has mysteries involved, which means that I'm going to crack out my old pen and paper and try to solve the crime before they do.
Yeah, I mean, we did that with another, but this is kind of next level, right?
This is the purpose of this series, so I will be trying to solve the mysteries before they tell me the answer.
Oh, anyway, that's just about it from us.
Guess what? It's that time. We're an official podcast now, guys. So we are being hosted by several lovely places. You can find us now on Spotify.
Yes!
We are on Spotify. Very, very happy that we can be hosted on somewhere that prominent. You can also find us on Stitcher. You can find us on iHeartRadio. And if you are so inclined and like myself, you can also find us on the charming little Android app, Podcast Addict, which means that
we are everywhere.
If you struggle with this format, because let's be real, we understand that YouTube is hard to watch in podcast form. We will be there for you in audio form. I'm currently probably going to be editing the episodes just a little bit to remove the opening song, just so we can also be hosted on iTunes. So you'll be able to find us pretty much fucking everywhere.
Yep, you can listen to us on the go. And with that, I've been Anime Anarchy.
And I, as always, am Ivy, the long-suffering one.
Yeah, he's gonna have to watch all this Japanese imperialist propaganda. It is literally a recruiting tool. It is a recruiting tool for otakus for the JSTF, and I can't wait. It's been fun. See you on the flip side, guys.
See ya.
When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting.